I think I want this to be more of a conversation because I've known you, I don't know, like we've known each other for, I honestly kind of see you as a friend. I know that might be a little weird, but I do see you as a friend. You know, we've been following each other on TikTok for a while now. But, you know, I just want to put everything aside, like Congress, office, you running, everything aside, and I just want to start off with one question, like, that means someone just followed me, so just nothing.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, that jingle is just someone followed me. What is your why? And I know I have a little bit, like, parts and pieces of what your why actually is, but what is really your why? What pushed you to the brink of where you're like, you know what, I'm running for Congress no matter what, and I'm doing it. You know, I'm running this fully progressive campaign, grassroots funded, and we're going for it.
Yeah, you know, the thing about this whole campaign and running for Congress in general is I would rather not. And my wife definitely wouldn't. So we had the conversation like way back. This was like a little bit after the insurrection happened. And it's a day that I would already never forget because it's our wedding anniversary.
Wow.
But now, who can forget it now?
Right.
And it was just kind of a situation where we were like, you know, I am perfectly fine with my life the way it is. I got my two kids.
Mm-hmm.
You know, my sister is works at Walt Disney World as on the corporate side of Disney, so we get into Disney World for free.
Yeah.
We get awesome tickets, you know, vacations and stuff like that. I would rather not put myself out here and do this.
Right.
But it's kind of a situation where, you know, if I don't, you know, who is? The thing I think we've seen is people running for office and they talk a good game and they say, oh yeah, you know, we're here for you and we're going to make some changes and it's going to be positive. And then we count on them to do that. And, they hang us out to dry because, oh, this money comes in and, you know, look at Kristen Sinema. Joe Manchin telling us why we can't have universal child care from his yacht. Well, I don't want you guys to get dependent on things. It's like, no. So that's one of the reasons why I'm running. But for me, the whole start of my career in public service goes back to 2011. Actually, coming up on the 11-year anniversary. My mother passed away January 13th, 2011.
Mm-hmm.
It was like I just came back up to campus. I'm originally from Bakersfield, and I went to Fresno State, which is about an hour and a half north of my hometown.
Mm-hmm.
My mother passed away pretty suddenly, and it was like one of these situations where, you know, she had health insurance, but if you can't afford the deductible, you're not using that insurance. If you have health insurance, but your prescription isn't covered by the insurance, and they're telling you, oh, it's going to be, you know, $1,000 a month for this drug that you need to stay alive.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you know, ration. We've seen ration with insulin and stuff like that, and that story's not unique. But it's that situation where she made the decision to put money into other bills and try to ration her medication, and it was a decision that ultimately cost her life. And, you know, here I am, a junior in college, and I get a doctor's bill. Because this is the thing, they don't really care who you are.
Right. Yeah.
You're the next in line. Here's the bill.
Yeah.
And, you know, how can that be in what we call the greatest country on earth? I just kind of made the decision that I was going to kind of work to be the change. I always hear, oh, be the change you want to see. But it's like one of those situations where like now we have to be the change. We have to take stuff into our own hands,
right?
Because waiting for these politicians and people to do it for us they'll never do it.
They'll never do it. Yeah, right. And so you were a junior in college and you received this bill in the letter, in your mailbox that said that you have to pay. Do you mind me asking how much the bill was?
$89,000.
Wow. I'm surprised you were able to go through with college, because that's very hard to receive a letter like that as a junior, especially.
Yeah. I mean, like, it's like one of those situations where, like, my mom was a single mother, and so I have a younger sister who is a couple years younger than me, and she stayed at home. She went to Cal State Bakersfield, and so she stayed at home. And it's like the situation where, like, now I have to navigate school, but also, like, go home and make sure that my little sister is okay. And then, it's kind of, it was rough. It was rough. And, without, like, my grandparents, I don't know how I really would have made it, other than the fact that I knew if I did not graduate, my mom would have whooped my ass. I would have got up to heaven and she would look at me like...
I'm sorry, I should not be laughing.
But, like, that's the deal. So my sister and I both graduated from college.
Wow, that's commendable.
University. So, and it was almost like one of those decisions where it wasn't really an option for us. Like, now I say, like, hey, if you find your groove in something that's not college, go for it. But for us, it was not an option.
Yeah. I think a lot of parents who are also who are single parents and stuff like that, they really push the school on their children as well, because they want, like, that's their definition of a better future for their children. And, a lot of people don't, we don't have trust funds. We don't have that luxury to kind of go out and see what is best, or what, it's like, you need to make money when you need to make it. And that's just, what it is. But I think this goes on, like, this actually really, by the way, my mother as well, she was diagnosed with cancer when I was in college. So, my little brother was diagnosed my junior year, and then my mother was diagnosed my senior year in college. So, it was very, I think the pivotal point for me was when I was in the hospital waiting for my brother to get out of his surgery, where they were, like, removing the cancer tumor. And I realized that it was the same hospital that they took care of the prisoners in. And my brother was on state-funded insurance, right, Medi-Cal. And not that there's anything, I think that was just kind of like a really weird turning point for me, where I was like, oh my God, I hope my brother comes out okay. You know what I mean? Like, I was just sitting there, like, oh my God.
You kind of, like, I ended up working after graduation for Fresno County's Department of Social Services and learning the ins and outs of Medi-Cal. And you kind of find out that, people go to prison to get high quality health care that you would not otherwise get outside. Like, that's one of the contributing factors of going to prison. The dental and the health benefits. It is outrageous and crazy, which is probably why it costs the state of California $60,000 for care for one inmate,
right? Versus
the, like, $7,000 or $8,000 per student in K through 12.
I want to kind of shift gears into Fresno, which is the area that you are essentially going to be serving if you do become elected. What are the top 3 main issues hitting the area that you want to serve, and what do you want to do to kind of combat them? The
top issue is something that's probably universal throughout California, but it's specifically for my district, is healthcare. We have a situation where 50% of Fresno County is already on Medi-Cal, and the other county in the district, Tulare County, 55% of residents there are already on Medi-Cal. So it is kind of a situation where, the universal health care, most people are already getting some kind of subsidized health. And for us to take that next step to where we can actually guarantee health care for everyone is vital. The other thing with healthcare that I have to comment on is including mental health in healthcare. Fresno is kind of has its reputation. We have a situation where our poverty rate in Fresno is actually the highest urban poverty rate in California. We have this reputation where people were in mental health facilities getting the help and treatment that they needed during the Reagan administration, and that was cut, and they released all those folks. You hear tales of people getting one-way bus tickets when they were kicked out of those facilities, one-way bus ticket to Fresno. And so we have a very high homeless population. And part of that stems from a lack of mental health care. So including first getting universal health care, having that include mental health is going to help tremendously. And just really coming up with packages to attack poverty in general. We have one of the situations where children under 6 have a poverty rate of 38%.
Wow.
In Fresno.
Wow.
It's kind of depressing when you think about it, because it's kind of also a situation where we have this like mix of urban center. Fresno's like the 5th largest city in California, but there's also a lot of smaller rural farming communities that just lie on the outskirts. And so those two things are pretty prominent. The other thing is, what I'm doing in my daily job at the Regional Water Quality Control Board is fixing our water issues. So different than like, bringing water to the valley or water to California, because that's well documented, our water quantity problems. But we have a situation where nobody's talking about the quality of the water that we do have, and people that are finding high rates of birth defects that have to do with pesticide runoff that's in the water. Contamination from wastewater to groundwater, kind of a situation. And so that's one of the things that we also need to be fixing is the quality of water that we do have.
Yeah. So I want to go back to the child poverty rate really quick. Are we talking about children that are homeless, or they're experiencing food hunger? What does that exactly look like?
Most of it is like, they live in families that are under the poverty rate. So we have a situation in California where we were able to guarantee school lunches to every student, regardless of their ability to pay. It's one of the things with the pandemic that was actually really awesome, was that even though schools were closed, every day you could still go and pick up a hot lunch, a hot meal, because a lot of times that one meal that they get at school is the only meal kids will have. So that's the situation kind of looks like for us. And, it's kind of a situation, we don't have a whole lot of industry. We're more agriculturally based and service industry based. And so policies that are in like something like Build Back Better, where we can have universal child care, because if you are one single parent and you're trying to, pull yourself up by your bootstraps and go and do all the things that you're supposed to do, but you don't have anyone to watch your child, how can you?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of what we're finding.
So, what would you, forgive me if you like spoke about this, but how would you combat that? I feel like that's a really big, that's a mounting, that's very mounting for one person to take on, and obviously Devin Nunez hasn't done anything about it for the past years, right? And it's just like these kinds of issues, they build up over time, right? You don't just get a population that's struggling this much. You don't get a population that's struggling with water poisoning and stuff like that. It just doesn't happen. It's one of those things that's a buildup of like decades upon decades of just neglect, right? And so.
Right.
I guess I'm not asking you like what you're, obviously you can't just wave a magic wand and say like it's all over, right? But what would your first like stepping stones be?
Well,
when you go into Congress?
There's definitely specific steps that we can take.
Mm-hmm.
Again, like having a situation where parents can work. I think that being called a progressive means I have these pie in the sky ideas, and they're not very pragmatic. Making a situation where parents can work is pretty pragmatic. Going about raising the minimum wage is something that we can. One of the tools that we have that can combat poverty. With children specifically, I think we've seen in numerous studies that have happened already. The city of Stockton kind of experimented with it, and it was like really well documented with their mayor, Michael Tubbs, and other places are starting to do it. But looking at what the effects of a universal basic income would have on folks in this situation, even if it was a situation where taking something as simple as our CalFresh, our food stamp program, and making it so that was the income that folks got, where you just had everybody just gets a set amount for buying groceries.
Yeah.
Which is originally how that our food stamp program was designed. It's ran by the Department of Agriculture for a reason.
Right.
And so having that situation where people, if you weren't comfortable with, these people are going to go buy drugs or this or that. Well, now we're talking about giving people food.
Right.
So that could be like a possible solution that I think is pretty pragmatic. But a combination of really big programs is what has to happen. Not only for our district, but for the rest of the country.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I have another question as well. And forgive me if I'm wrong, but is also drug abuse an issue within Fresno as well? I heard that it is for some parts, but I wasn't sure if that's like actually true.
Oh yeah, there was a documentary done by Vice about.
That's what I was talking about. Yeah.
Methamphetamines in Fresno, and it's like one of those situations where it is like we really have to decide as a society if we are going to be punitive or have a rehabilitative system.
Restorative, yeah.
Because just locking people up for nonviolent drug offenses doesn't do anything but put them in the system that perpetuates the cycle.
Right.
Not getting to the root cause that people have with drug addiction. Whether it starts from, like a lot of folks are self-medicating because they don't have the access to mental health care.
Right.
And then some of it is, taking methamphetamines just to function because you got people that are working 80, 90, sometimes 100 hours plus in doing hard field work labor. So you're right. Drug use is a problem. We have a situation now where, we are spending, I think, $168 million as a city from COVID relief funds and trying to shelter people. But the problem is the shelters that we have will not take you unless you meet certain criteria.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to be clean. You have to be, not be on drugs or not do this or that. And, my wife makes it very, very clear as a registered nurse talking about Maslow's hierarchy of needs. If I don't know where I'm staying, it's very hard for me to, I'm just going to get off drugs. If I don't know where my next meal is coming from, it's hard for me to, I don't need these. So addressing people's primary needs, and then we can work from there.
Right.
I'm kind of like a situation, and this might be too liberal, but look at places like Portugal. I think if we're going to be a country that talks about individual responsibility and things like that, drugs, are there harmful drugs? Yes. Are there people that do harmful drugs and can still function day to day? There are. But I think we need to look at a system where, are we going to penalize people for doing drugs, or are we going to try to rehabilitate them?
Right. Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. I think that's, in Oregon, they a couple of years ago, they passed and I could be wrong on the exact specifics, but it was where the tax money from the weed sales that they had done went to rehabilitation of people that were arrested with minor drug offenses. And I have yet to go look at the statistics for that, but something like that would be really awesome for Fresno as well. But you said something very interesting, and I kind of want to dive into that as well. I'm a part of the TikTok Democrats. I'm a part of Democratic groups, but I'm gonna level with you. They're not doing it for me. They're really not. Especially as a progressive, I hear people saying vote blue no matter who, and I'm just like, bro, you're not giving me much right now, and it's just like, and I think that's why people like Devin Nunez were able to stay in office. I mean, across from literally the $6 million that he was able to raise from different PACs and lobbying throughout the time that he was in office, which I think was also a really big factor in this as well. But, that same old messaging, vote blue no matter who, Democrats are the way to go. But, right now the Democratic Party cannot even convince Joe Manchin to sign on the Build Back Better Act.
I know.
So, you know what I mean?
It's like, you want to have, what I think of it is like when, in Aladdin, when Aladdin's fighting Jafar at the end, and then the genie's like, hurry, Jafar, he's our man. If he can't do it, great. With a little flag, that's how we are. It's like, come on, Dems, go.
Yeah.
Because you're absolutely right. Instead of blue no matter who, not just any blue will do. And that is really what it's got to be.
Right.
Especially, I always run into this thing with Joe Manchin and Kristen Sinema, and this fear we can't say anything to Joe Manchin, or we can't criticize him because then he'll turn Republican. If he is not voting for the policies of his party, what good is he to the party?
Right.
I cannot tell you what the message of the Democratic Party is. I can tell you what individual people who are in the Democratic Party, what their message is, what they're running on. But as far as a party, I can't tell you. Joe Biden was just in Atlanta talking about, the getting voting rights passed, and I just look at the situation like, are we really that inept? Because I feel like it's almost like a crystal ball. It's like a slow train wreck where if we lose the House, or definitely if we lose the Senate, we're going to see a situation where Mitch McConnell is going to be like, well, we're going to move forward with getting rid of the filibuster for all the reasons Democrats opened the door, and we're going to walk through it. And
right.
So now tick, 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 tick on everything that they want to do. And
Right.
we're sitting back like, oh, I don't know. The Senate, the Senate parliamentarian says we can't do these things. And it's just like, no. If you, especially black people in the Democratic Party who showed up to put Biden in office and then showed up again in January to give him a Senate majority.
Yeah.
Use it.
Yeah.
I'm so sick of Democrats running to polls.
Yeah.
Democrats run to polls, Republicans move them.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
And so that's what we need to do. And if you don't want to get on board with the agenda, Joe Manchin, sorry, we're going to put somebody up to primary you.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
You're going to be replaced.
Yeah.
But the situation now is like, the old corporate, I'm almost convinced that Democrats, the DCCC, are trying to lose races on purpose so that they can so the Republicans take back the House and they can have this big fundraising haul of taking back the House. All the people that are going to be damaged by Republicans taking the House, be damned.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I really, these things, I was actually really surprised that Joe Biden was, putting a package like Build Back Better and actually doing some things to get it through. But also, it's almost like the situation where, in public, yeah, we're for Build Back Better and we're for fight for voting rights and all this stuff. And then, hey, Joe, you're going to be our guy, right? You're going to block it so we can look like we're fighting for it, but we know our donors don't like it. So you be the guy.
Yeah, you be the fallback. Yeah, I think there's.
And then just say, oh, well, we couldn't get it. Next time, guys. If you give us the majority again, but a bigger one, we're going to do what you actually put us in office to do.
Yeah. And it really hurts my heart because I think right now the Squad and a couple other progressives really have the shoulder, like the burden, the weight of a lot of people on their backs, right? Which is why actually the chat, we call it the chat on Twitch, like people like in the chat box, the chat wants you to run for president, by the way. So.
Maybe one day.
Yeah, one day, we'll be rooting
right now,
for you.
Fresno, we're a Coors country, so
yeah.
I'm not quite presidential yet.
One area at a time.
Shipping champagne. One
area at a time. But I'm just so glad that someone like you is running because, like I said, the old. I mean, we saw what happened in Virginia. Virginia turned completely red, like blood red. The whole entire state turned red, and it's one of those things where it's like, and they did it. They ran a poll on the people that flipped from Democrat to Republican. And they were just like, yeah, policy-wise, everything, we're still Democrat, but, Republicans just spoke to us more traditionally, right? They just spoke to us more. But you see this in all different realms, right? I mean, voter suppression, everything, the heartbeat bill that was just passed in Texas, although it's been passed in other states, but it was enacted in Texas. Republicans are constantly pushing the bill on things, and I think Democrats are constantly, like, trying to catch up, like, running, catching up. But this brings me to another point, right? So I want to kind of go back to Devin Nunez. So Devin Nunez was a riot when he was in office, right? He was a staunch Trumplican, a staunch Trump, supporter, and he announced that he's going to go become the CEO of Trump's media company that is coming out, which, by the way, chat, Trump's media company has been hacked twice now since the beta has come out. So I'm not sure how well that's going to go for them, but we'll see. And I know TYT kind of went over this with you as well. The redistricting actually made Fresno more Democrat. So we don't even know if Devin would have had that kind of a chance if he would have ran again, you know?
Right. Yeah, he wouldn't have.
Yeah, he
which is why he skipped town.
Right, which is why he skipped town. Can you talk a little bit about the redistricting and how you're going to move to make the redistricting kind of work in your favor now? Because that's huge. You know, I mean, the district went from Republican to Democrat.
Yeah. Yeah, we had, it's kind of a situation where historically this district is seen as like more conservative. We reside in the red part of California where Kevin McCarthy's just to the south, David Valadao a little bit to the south, and then Devin Nunez is just in that red circle that's in the center of the state. Mm-hmm. And so it's been perceived to be really conservative. Mm-hmm. But I think when you look at Devin Nunez's races historically, the Democrats that have ran against him have always had this like corporatist kind of message to go along with it. It's always vote for me because I'm not Devin Nunez. And so
we were just talking about.
I'm Devin Nunez, and then this guy's not Devin Nunez. Well, what are you going to do for me? Well, vote for me because, I'm not him, but that's my message.
Yeah.
Right? It works.
Yeah.
And it just doesn't work. And it's really terrible. With redistricting, we've brought in a lot more of the South Fresno, which is more minority, lower income, more traditional Democratic voters. And I think the belief is that because it's more Democrat, that any Democrat, again, that vote blue no matter who mm-hmm. kind of messaging is going to be effective. And I'm just sitting back. Everything that I've known about this city and this place, a lot of the people that would back Democrats before in that old blue no matter who mm-hmm. Are the older white liberals of Fresno that buy into that. Well, he's a Democrat, so he's going to be good.
Right.
And no other, policy points matter.
Right.
And it's just like, well, okay. But for me, I'm talking about things that actually a person who I have student loans. I have 2 kids that are in school, in elementary school, and I want their school to have funding, to have an arts program. I have two kids, and I want them to be able to breathe the air, to play outside, mm-hmm. and not have bad air days where they have to stay in. I want them to be able to drink the water that flows from our faucet.
Right.
So those issues are front of mind for folks, and then just saying, vote for me because I'm not the other guy.
It's just not enough.
It's not enough.
Yeah.
It's not enough. And especially because the areas that they added are registered Democrats, but they are those working class people that if you do not give them a reason to go out of their way to vote, they will not.
Yeah.
And so just saying, oh, vote for me, I'm Democrat, does not work. It's not going to work. And the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and expecting a different result.
Right.
And that is kind of the playbook that we're seeing.
Yes, absolutely. And I'm so glad that you recognize this because I still think a lot of Democrats don't recognize this. I really don't. I don't think they fully understand. Listen, the old I'm Democrat, vote blue no matter who, it's just not doing it. People, I think there was this whole collective consciousness last year, especially during the year of COVID, and, people are starting to wake up to the fact that, hey, like, whatever we've been doing clearly is not working. It has not been working. And I think it's very interesting that you work in water because that's literally such a huge part of Fresno. That's such a
water's life.
Yeah, water is life, absolutely. But you bring up the pesticides. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought using certain pesticides was illegal, or are there loopholes around that?
Certain pesticides, yes, you aren't allowed to use on crops, but the pesticides that you still see, they're not like organic. So you're still going to get some kind of runoff, and the concentration of runoff still, can be dangerous.
Yeah.
And so, anything in excess, if I have a headache and I take 2 Tylenol, might be fine.
Right.
If I take 30, it's be the last headache I ever have. So.
Yeah. Right.
And to bring up your point about running as a Democrat, and what happened in Virginia, I just felt disheartened for so long, and most of the people that I go out and canvass and talk to, and we're talking about stuff, and I try to really, I did a couple of TikTok videos about leading with values, and when I reach out and I talk to people, talking about those things that would traditionally be seen as Republican or conservative, but they don't have a monopoly on talking about freedom. Because I think as a progressive, we are the ones that really have are really for freedom. We're talking about people being able to free to marry the people that they love.
Mm-hmm.
What a novel idea! Free to have the choice of whether, if, when, and with whom you have a child with. Those things to me are real freedom.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even I can't even give you an example of what freedom a conservative, the freedom to say what I want to say without anybody doing anything back to me, I guess is freedom. But that is I feel like Democrats just run as chickens.
Right. Yeah.
And they're afraid to lean into those things. And security. God, who doesn't want to be secure? I always get as the black candidate, oh, you must be for abolishing the police. Right? And it's a situation where, when I think about it, there's got to be a middle ground between me as a black man calling the police when I need help and assistance, and then them showing up and killing me,
mm-hmm.
who called them for help,
mm-hmm.
or them not showing up at all.
Mm-hmm.
There's got to be a middle ground there. I know there is.
Right.
So, that's the kind of things that we're focusing on, is where the pragmatic middle ground is on where people are. Do we want our police to be held accountable? Absolutely. Again, my wife is a registered nurse. If she goes and gives somebody the wrong medication and they die, she's lost her job, her license, and can be sued.
Right.
Maybe we should just have the same standard for the people that are authorized to use deadly force.
Right.
That's all we're talking about. It's not radical.
Yeah.
But people are too afraid to lean into those kind of things.
Right.
For chickens.
Yeah. I mean, I think the police union itself is kind of a very, very well backed and big. I would like to say kind of a cult, but
Well, it's funny because the same people that hate unions love police unions.
You can't have.
And what's the function of the? I don't fault police unions. They're there as organizations to protect their folks.
Yeah.
So why, if you agree with that, shouldn't you agree for that for people that are in these quote unquote low skill jobs?
Right.
I find that now with the supply chain problems that now we see low skill jobs is what they call them.
Right.
But really, they're begging people to do these low-skill jobs.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe we should have some protections for those folks that you're so dependent on.
Yeah, I mean, you know, companies like Starbucks, Target, Walmart are now having these crazy benefits for their employees, right? You know, full ride scholarship, you know, oh, we're going to raise your wages within the next year and stuff like that. And I'm just like, you guys are just doing this because now you need workers so badly. But, you know, before the pandemic, it was low-skilled workers. What are they doing for me to pay them, you know, more and stuff like that? But I just want to, like, you know, actually going like within that route of conversation. So you're completely progressive. You're running with just the people's funds. What does that look like for you? Working a full-time job, having 2 young daughters, a wife that is also working, I'm assuming, and taking care of the children. Like, how are you doing all this? Because I'm sure you probably don't have a lot of friends in the PAC lobbying realm.
No.
Tell us a little bit about that.
It was like, it's like one of those situations where, when I decided to run, it was kind of like a group of my like friends and my wife, and we sat around my kitchen table and actually like mapped out, what does this look like? And we just started doing things to get out in the community, and you raise your profile a little bit, and then you have a conversation with the local party, and they tell you, okay, now, you know, we love your policy positions, we love what you're doing. You know, you have roots in the community. You did volunteer services, you know, for a number of years with this. You go to this church, and you know, you're established. We like all that, but who are your donors? Where you can get this money from? At the time when Devin Nunez was in, it was like projected, you need to have raise at least $6 million. And if you don't have a plan for that, no. Maybe you can, you know, raise some issues, but, you know, don't expect a whole lot. And $6 million is pretty daunting when you don't know anything or have those friends that can write $2,900 checks, $10,000 checks.
Right.
So it was the situation where we mapped out everybody in my contacts list. I've had the same phone number since I was 14, back when I had my singular wireless.
Yeah.
And so I've had like same contact list. So I was calling literally everybody I knew.
Yeah.
And it was like the situation where it's like, hey, remember that time in 8th grade when I gave you $5 for a Fruitopia and some pizza? I'm running for Congress. Can you give that back? With interest, please?
Yeah.
And so we kind of like, you know, did a pretty good haul. But, you know, for me, my mental block would get in the way of calling people that I know, because it's like, oh, you know, I could call my cousin, but I know he just had a baby and he probably can't do anything right now. Or oh, this friend, I know they're planning to go to Hawaii next month. And it's like, wow. And so it is like, fundraising is the hardest part of this whole thing, especially when you're going up against folks who have that initial fund that they can loan themselves $200,000 to start their campaign.
Yeah.
And getting into the fundraising part of it, it takes money to make money is what they tell you. So they do these list acquisitions, where they just amassed all these emails that they've collected. Right. And the email list may cost $50,000, but it'll bring in 100, or it'll bring in 150. And that is how things are done. I have had the good fortune to be endorsed by 2 PACs. The Collective PAC, which is the largest political organization dedicated to electing Black leaders. Amazing. With the understanding that it is hard for Black candidates to come up with that initial capital.
Right.
Fundraising being the biggest roadblock.
Right.
And so I got endorsed by them really early on in this race. I think it was like back in August.
Wow.
That I got endorsed by them, and it was really awesome.
Mm-hmm.
They have given me access to a lot of other elected officials. I was able to meet Cori Bush in September.
That's amazing.
And it was really awesome because I was like, because my family's from East St. Louis.
Yeah.
And so it was like one of those things where she was like right there at like, we had this like food table, and I was like, get a little closer,
Yeah.
And she was like, hi, honey. And I was like, hi. But learning how to get that time with her, talking to her about campaigning, as the first Black woman elected from Missouri, as the first Black Lives Matter supporter elected to Congress. Mm-hmm. She ran 3 times. That's what she told me. I ran 3 times for this, and so I'm really proud to be first. But I didn't run to be first, mm-hmm. and so I'm here to bring up people with me.
Yeah.
And so I think that having folks in office that are really about the work, that mm-hmm. are truly about the work and want people there, because mm-hmm. the name of the game in Congress is influence. Right. And I see a lot of folks that are like get upset that like the squad didn't stand up against Nancy Pelosi and try to wield some power there, but it's like there's like 7 of them, 6 of them.
Right, exactly. There's 7 of them against like so many tenured career politicians.
Yeah, we need to have a true insurgency like the Tea Party was able to do, where they had wave after wave, where they were just primarying every Republican. Oh, you didn't do this? We're primarying you. And they just went after them. And then so when it came time to do speakership, they had 40 members of that caucus that were rabid, ready to go to say, if you don't do what we want to do, we're not going to vote for you. We're going to put up our own candidate for speaker or what have you. It's really kind of hard in a body of 435 people for 7 people to be like, you need us. It's like, nah, we don't. So that's why it's like up to us to really go out and find candidates that have a message that are like that you will actually trust, mm-hmm. and that they will get it done, mm-hmm. or they'll at least have that buy-in with you, mm-hmm. that they will not rest until it's done, and go out and support them. Whether it is a lot of people can't give a $2,900 check, but I could definitely handle $25 a month.
Right.
I like to think of my tweets as entertaining. So if you want to give me $15 a month and it gives you access to the hilarity that is my tweets or like my stupid videos, that's every little bit in a grassroots campaign helps us get those messages out. Yeah. And so it helps us kind of dilute. We'll never have as much as, some of these establishment campaigns. But I'll tell you what, our candidates care more. They're working their ass off more. And we know when you're people powered that you can out-organize money. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Money just helps.
Yeah, of course, yeah. How big is your campaign right now?
We have maybe 3 staff people, mm-hmm. and then a consulting agency that we work with. We just started working with, actually raised up enough to start working with them to actually say like, okay, we're serious now.
We're doing it. Yeah.
We're in the league, if you will. but everything could always be bigger.
No, of course, of course. So I want to get into extensively how we can help you. Also, this is recorded, so it will go on my YouTube as well afterwards, so it will live on YouTube too. But before we get into how we can help you and all of that good stuff, I kind of want to talk about Devin Nunez's PAC money. And so, I think this is like a great segue going into talking about that. I did a deep dive into Devin Nunez's PAC money, as I love to do. I don't know what is wrong with me. I will spend hours in rabbit holes of just PAC funding for politicians. I don't know why. It's just like my guilty pleasure, I guess. So there's two really big. He received PAC funds from a lot of different sectors. It was actually kind of a headache looking through it. But what really surprised me, and I'm hoping you can speak a little bit to this. I guess this is kind of like a multi-tiered question. So two of the biggest, 200,000 and 200,000 per election cycle, right? So 400,000 total from defense, so Raytheon, Boeing, Lockheed Martin, and agriculture. And when I looked into the agriculture, I saw a lot of sugar companies, which was very interesting.
Which is weird, because we don't grow sugar.
Yeah, it was a lot of sugar companies, and I was like, interesting, right? So, I mean, I'm not asking you to, like, break the code of, you know, his funding, right? Because who knows what really happened there. But, you know, going off of this, Devin Nunez received a lot of PAC money from different sectors. Those are the two biggest sectors, but there's just so many sectors that were funneling hundreds and thousands of dollars. Have you seen any of these sectors try to work against you or raise money to prop someone that's running, you know, with you? And have you kind of seen that, like, collision happen within your race?
In our race, we haven't. I think it's just because now a lot of those PACs are looking at who the conservative GOP candidate is going to be. And the other thing, the reason I think we haven't is because Devin Nunez was really in line. If the Republicans did take back the House, he was in line to be the chair of, you know, some pretty powerful House committees,
right?
Where now that's not the case.
Yeah.
So as far as defense, I haven't seen a whole lot of it. The agricultural lobby is always going to probably play a little bit in this race, just because of the area, and you do kind of see the general messaging that they have, whether they're putting up billboards or commercials on TV now that are just kind of generically attacking any stand-in Democrat, which is why, again, blue no matter who, not very effective.
Yeah.
But it is kind of a situation where, you know, they are more against environmental regulation and trying to put it out that any changes to that kind of lead to higher prices for things. And that's one of the commercials that's running here. But, you know, I mean, none of us really like when prices go up. And, you know, that's obvious. But I do think that we, again, need to speak out on things. And so I had the situation where somebody cited that commercial about, like, don't you know environmental regulation is going to raise our prices for energy and all this other stuff? And I just kind of was like, well, hold on. Do you like clean air and clean water? And don't you like parks and Yosemite's up the way, and we have the Kings Canyon to the east? Or don't you like those things? well, yeah, but maybe we just need some fair rules so that people don't abuse the system for the rest of us and pollute. But that's kind of like just my general conversational attack against that agricultural messaging. Because the other thing that they are kind of doing is attacking the immigration issue.
Oh wow, that's interesting because of agriculture in Fresno, right? And all the workers. Yeah, okay.
Right. So it's kind of like a situation. It's ironic. I think we had a company here that, offered $40,000 to people to come work the fields. For American citizens, people with citizenship and stuff. So it's ironic that they would be focused on immigration, but.
So sorry, you kind of broke off there. You said they offered $40,000 for people that have a citizenship to work in the fields.
Right, for just regular folks, regular people with citizenship to come work the fields from the health insurance and all that. $40,000.
Like a $40,000 bonus. Oh, a year. Yearly.
Yeah, like a job. Yeah. Of course, a year is like the planting season, right? And harvest. And nobody took it.
I mean, who would?
Exactly. So, of course, they like to have. I understand the agricultural community because it is a kind of a situation where we're seeing these big ag monopolies come in and try to buy these smaller family farms, and the traditional family farms kind of disappearing. Folks are selling off because their kids don't actually want to do farming,
right?
But B, they're kind of getting squeezed. It's almost like the Walmart model, where if I'm a big corporation, I could come in and sell to an area, sell my product below market value, get all those retailers to buy my stuff, and now you're in a situation where you can't lower your prices because labor costs this much, and the biggest cost is labor. So you got to sell to me. And it's like a situation, 1989, just to give you some statistics, 1989, for every dollar that was spent on farm products, agricultural products, farmers got 37 cents of every dollar. 2020, farmers got 15 cents of every dollar.
Ooh, that's not good.
So it's, kind of a situation. I talked to a grower here in this area. They are going to they sell table grapes, going to the big retailers like Costco and supermarkets like Save Mart and other places, and it cost them $18 per package to do this. And Costco and these other retailers only want to buy it at $18. You're not going to be in business very long if it costs you $18 to make something and you're only able to sell it for $18.
Right.
So I was actually really surprised to find that there are some folks in the farming community that are like, well, you know what? I wouldn't normally. I don't know why I have to put on the accent, but I do.
We love the accent. Chat loves the accent too. Don't worry.
I wouldn't normally vote for a Democrat, but you're a little bit different.
Yeah.
And so, just goes to show you can find strange bedfellows in the progressive movement.
You can.
And that's kind of what we're seeing.
You know, I've kind of come in this weird place where I've become really cool with some state assembly members, but then they're cool with people in Congress that I don't like in California. So like now I don't want to ruin my friendship with them. So I've kind of like tapered down my crap talking about the ones that I don't like. But there's specifically one congressman in the Bay Area, and he really loves to talk about how progressive he is. But his wife had over $300,000 worth of investments in defense companies like Raytheon, Boeing, Honeywell, and he's championed as one of the biggest, congressmen, like behind the end of the war with Yemen, when in reality, the whole entire time we were in war with Yemen, his wife was personally profiting off of the weapons of mass destruction that we were selling to Saudi Arabia, which 4 of the biggest weapons of mass destruction manufacturers within America, which is Raytheon, Boeing, Honeywell, there's Lockheed Martin. Those 4, 90% of all the weapons of mass destruction that they create went straight to Saudi Arabia to fight this proxy war in Yemen, which has actually left Yemen in a state of basically no point in return. There's nationwide famine. They're estimating that within the next couple of decades, Yemen will not be a country anymore because it's very sad to say, but they're saying that as a whole entire nationality, they're expecting the country to become completely wiped out.
Wow.
As a result of this war, of this proxy war. And obviously other factors in it too, but that's my beef with certain people, as well as that they say they're progressive, they say they're for the people, they say they're against wars, right? But then when you really dive into not their investments, their wife's investment, right? Or, then you start kind of seeing where the lines are really starting to just not add up. And I'm just like, okay, well, are you truly a progressive? Or, you know what I mean?
Right. And that's kind of the situation now with, Nancy Pelosi saying that, no, we're not going to block people in Congress from doing investments. I
wonder why.
Maybe because her husband does investments, and I don't know how a person in public service gets to have a net worth over $100 million.
Oh, she made over 11 million this past year alone during the year of COVID deficit.
How the hell did that happen, Nancy? Yeah. And especially because we've seen there's no punishment for people that are caught doing insider trading within Congress. You are given information that the general public does not have.
Right.
Kelly Loeffler comes to mind with her information with COVID and how serious COVID was at the start of this in 2020. Telling everybody to their face, oh, it's no big deal. It's fine. Hey, we're going to invest in some masks and stuff like that right now. Let's do it right now while they're cheap. Yeah, but everything's fine. It's good.
Yeah, it's all good. Don't worry.
They do that all the time. And it's just like, oh God. I mean, defense spending alone is problematic in America. I mean, the fact that the United States can spend more than the next 11 biggest defense spenders combined, 9 of which are countries that the U.S. sells weapons to, it baffles my mind. There's always room in the budget for defense.
Always.
And I know it sounds like a little kiddish, but I would think of when you have a sibling and you asked your mom for ice cream and your mom told you no, but then your little sibling, okay, some ice cream. And she's like, oh, okay, here you go. And then she gives her a big ass Like, what the? I feel like that's where we were. We were talking about, hey, can we just get a little bit, paid family leave? Can we get some child care? Hey, this environment thing that we all have to breathe air and drink the water, maybe we can get some money to fix that, so that, we can still exist.
Right.
50 years from now.
Healthcare.
We don't have money for that.
Yeah.
But then, like, literally 2 weeks later, the reauthorization of the Defense Act comes along, and they add $25 billion more than what was asked for.
Right. For
planes that don't even... I don't know if this is PG or not. Planes don't even fly. What shit is that?
This is Twitch. Like, anything flies with my boat.
Like,
I don't know what you want. Yeah, no,
my grandmother was basically the female Samuel L. Jackson, so I was raised up learning what MF was before I knew any other word.
I'm done.
But like, what kind of stuff is that? Literally, where are your priorities? Is your priority in the people of the country, or is it with the military-industrial complex? And they show time and time again. I think it was 40 House members that voted against it, and of course, it was the Progressive Caucus. But where are your priorities? I think that's what we're really sick of. I was in 7th grade when 9/11 happened, and from that moment on,
don't get me started on 9/11. I'm gonna be here until 12. But yeah, go on. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Well, I was just saying, like, that was from that moment on, and all these other folks that are younger than me, America's been at war for their entire lives. For my entire adult life.
Yeah.
Maybe we can do some other things. Maybe, all these people that claim to care about the Constitution, maybe they should look a little bit closer where it says the whole point of the Constitution, the whole point of the government of the United States is there to promote the general welfare of its people.
Right.
Sure, provide for the common defense, but as a part of it, promoting the general welfare.
Yeah.
And that should be our argument against these people. Oh, what the Constitution? No, this is what the government is for. The government is there to protect people when they're in a position where they can't protect themselves. The government is there as a policymaker, person in Congress. We're there to protect, to maintain a fair playing field amongst entities of power versus the less powerful.
Yeah.
That's the function of government.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what's supposed to be the function of government, right? Yeah. I have one more question. I don't know how much time you have. I'm sorry. I know you have 2 little ones. You're so just like...
They're at Grandma and Grandpa's house. It's all good.
Okay. Well, whatever you want to kind of, like, listen, Ariana, I gotta go to sleep. Like, I totally understand. But another thing I want to talk about, which I don't think is really spoken about a lot, especially with congressional candidates, is accessibility, right? So, for example, my mom is fighting stage 4 cancer. That was really, she was my why. She was the reason why I started this whole progressive brat thing. It's been 3 months. We've been going strong on TikTok, YouTube, and just started Twitch a couple weeks ago. But really my goal with this was to make my mother's voice and the struggle that people like my mother go through heard, right? And one of the really big issues that I've been seeing with across from affordable healthcare, federal disability, being able to afford, food, getting our EBT, like all these different things. She has been trying to get a hold of one of her congressmen, city council, state assembly, and no one gets back to her. No one talks to her. No one responds to her email. No one talk to her or responds to her, right? And I think this is a running problem within people in office in California, especially just because it's the seventh biggest economy in the world, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, right? It's a lot of work being an elected official in California, but, you know, what are you going to do to make sure that you're accessible to your constituents, especially the ones that want to talk to you about, you know, things that they think could be improved within your area?
You know, this is actually a really big issue, especially because Devin Nunez, our previous representative, hadn't held any constituent events since 2009.
Wow.
It's 2021.
2022.
Nobody heard, or 2022. That's right. You know, we haven't heard from him. You know, hasn't answered for any votes or anything. Hey, maybe let's see what the common folk are doing. Not even any of that.
Nothing.
That's nothing.
No town halls. No nothing.
Nothing.
Wow.
For over a decade.
Wow.
So, to me, I don't like to give Trump a lot of credit for things. But in the accessibility department, you know, the reason I run my own social media, as opposed to some of the candidates, I mean, you could tell a candidate that is having a consulting firm run their social media.
Oh, yeah, I know. I talk to them.
A post and then ask for money.
Yep.
And don't answer anybody, reply to anything.
Yep.
I run my own socials because I think it's, you know, that was one of the great things that Trump did, is when he was on the toilet at 3 a.m. poop tweeting, you knew you were talking to the president. Misspelled words and all, covfefe and all.
Covfefe and all, he was there.
You know? And just, I mean, that's like part of the reason that people like loved, well, I don't say loved, but love him, because they still do, is that they felt like they were connected to the president on a personal level.
It was a very odd parasocial relationship, for sure.
They loved him, and he loved himself, so it worked. But I think that's one of the great things, tools that we have at our disposal now in being a younger, I won't say I'm like that young. I feel young, but I'm reminded every day that I'm not so much. But 33, I feel like I'm pretty
No, you're young. You're young.
But, you know, we have social media. We use social media, and that's a really great tool for keeping in touch with people. Mm-hmm. But also, like, being a representative, representing is in the job.
Right, yeah.
Is that all right? So I think of it as a situation, if I'm going to be a representative, people in my district are trusting me to make my best judgment, even in situations where they may not agree. Mm-hmm. Obviously, we're going to disagree at some things. But the job of a representative is to then go back and tell people in their district, hey, you know, this vote, I know you guys wanted me to do something else. Here's why I voted this way.
Yeah.
And then at that point, it's up to the constituency to say, that was a line too far, and they vote for somebody else. Or it's like, well, okay, I see the picture now. Mm-hmm. I understand. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I may not have liked it at the time, but I understand. So using social media, using town halls, you know, I have this situation where I am out and about in town quite often. I am on this committee that is working right now to stop the sale of a historic theater in Fresno. Mm-hmm. The Tower Theater, Tower District. If you think of the similarity, so Tower District would be like Castro in San Francisco. It is a big LGBTQ area, not only for this town of Fresno, but the whole Central Valley. People would come down from the mountains, make an hour trip to this area, so they just so they could feel normal, feel welcomed in a place. Because the outlying areas, not so welcoming to non-traditional. And then a church is trying to buy it, and they are a non-affirming LGBTQ. I won't say hating, because it seems to me like they hate them, but
it probably
disapproving.
Is hate. It probably is hate. That is hate.
Disapproving church. And so we're, just citizens that are concerned about it and don't think it should happen, and we're out there every week protesting it. But I'm out there talking to everybody. Mm-hmm. I'm very accessible. My wife and I, we are big sports fans, so we do a host a tailgate and invite people to come.
That's amazing.
So
like a cookout for everyone?
For Fresno State games. So if you are a big football fan, you're in Fresno, hit me up. By the way, this Twitch is brought to you by White Claw. Oh, dang. White Claw.
We love the energy, Lourin.
You're not breaking the law when you're drinking the claw.
We really love this energy.
But, that's the thing, is being accessible. So the first thing is having staff dedicated to answering people's emails.
The chat is asking if they could come to the cookout, too.
Absolutely. But you got to be down with George Clinton and Lakeside and Funkadelic. That's all that I play.
Yep. Y'all got to be okay with that. They said they're okay with it. They said they'll do it.
Yeah, we do a big tailgate every year. So if you want, you can go to LaurenHubbard.com, subscribe to the email list, and I'll keep everybody Rolodexed, and just let me know specifically, hey, I want to be on the cookout list.
Yes, don't worry. I will send out, after we're done with this live, everyone's going to know your website. Your Twitter has been shared a couple of times in the chat as well. So we've been promoting that, as there's a lot kind of going on in the peripherals. Yeah, there's been like a cool 25 to 30 people on TikTok. Hello guys, I'm not ignoring you. I see you guys. And then there's been people in, they've been sharing your website, your Twitter, everything. So don't worry, we're doing. I have moderators that are helping me with everything. Shout out to them.
Awesome. Shout out to you guys.
No, seriously. So I had a couple of questions come in. One question was, okay, so I guess there was a Devin Nunez cow Twitter that came out, and he tried to sue the page. Do you know about that? They're asking.
Oh yeah.
Do you know about that page?
This is one of the things we actually in Fresno had a. Oh, it's my dog. Oh, my kids must be home. We had a constituent rally where we went down to his Clovis office. By the way, he had staff that have been working for him for a number of years and never met him. Talk about the lack of accessibility if your staff has never met you.
Wow. But, staff that has never met him?
Yes.
His own staff has never met him?
Yes.
Oh my God.
That's the type of person we're talking about. But yeah, we had a whole rally dedicated to it, and someone dressed up as a cow and that whole thing. The cow's not the only one.
He has
not the only one he sued.
Yeah, I know. They were talking about a mother one as well, and I was like, oh my God, this man has time to sue Twitter pages, but he can't meet his own staff?
For literally hundreds of millions of dollars. As a public servant, I'm sorry, you're up for critique. If you're doing a shitty job, a parody account's going to let you know. But yeah, I don't know who the cow is, but I know of the cow.
He's like, I know of the cow. I had another question that asked what your thoughts are on the Second Amendment. I'm sure the Second Amendment is a bigger thing in Fresno than it is in other areas of California. Oh
yeah, definitely. Second Amendment is a big area of concern here, especially on the progressive side. I will say, as a person, I am a gun owner.
Mm-hmm.
but probably for different reasons than like other people. This is like kind of the thing that gets lost with like black candidates and stuff like that, and talking about things that, again, people are scared to talk about. I have guns, not for hunting. I'm not a sportsman. I have guns because I have crazy ass neighbors. So I clearly support the Second Amendment, but like most Americans, I think that there should be reasonable laws that help keep guns out of the hands of people like convicted felons, domestic abusers, people that are mentally ill. Like one of the first bills that when Republicans took back the House in 2017, one of the first bills that they passed was to allow people that have been deemed mentally ill, and when I say deemed, like they went through court case, like adjudicated cases that said, hey, this person's clinically crazy. They passed a bill that allowed them to have firearms again. That is just outrageous. So, I think we should look at what's happening in our country with gun violence being the #1 cause of death between children 0 to 18, and probably look at some kind of legislation that makes common sense, that is there to protect public safety.
Yeah, no, the chat is really supportive. They said that, have you heard that one song on TikTok when it's like, when you're black, you're never truly alone. There's always...
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, the NRA, the only time the NRA has been against a ban on firearms was when the Black Panthers showed up and said, like, hey, I have it to protect myself from you. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's a very good point to take. So let me ask you this, and this might be a little bit of a, I think the answer to this is going to be no, but I just want to ask, like, if the NRA came to you and was like, hey, $100,000 for your campaign, since you support us, or you support, the access to guns, would you take that kind of funding, or would you kind of, no, yeah. See, this is why we stand you, Lourin. This is why we stand you.
Yeah, now there's different organizations, like there's NAGA, which is the African American Gun Owners of America, that actually promote gun safety, gun training for their members, and it's not like a situation where it is like evil lobbying that they do. They actually do very little lobbying, but there's a difference between like a club, an association of people that like the same things.
Yeah, 100%.
People that are doing some evil shit.
Yeah. No, I completely agree with you. Listen, Lourin, if you end up having a campaign, launch or anything like that, any way I can help you, I will come down to Fresno and make it happen, whether it's speaking, whether it's promoting, doing a live stream at the event, like anything to really prop you up.
I think we're looking beginning of March. I know February we're doing a month of action for Black History Month, but then beginning of March, I think we're going to do a large style rally. So I will keep you in mind.
I am so sorry. Sorry, give me 1 second. Sorry.
Oh, it's all good.
Sorry about that. I put my phone on Do Not Disturb, but for some reason FaceTime calls don't add into the Do Not Disturb list. I don't know why. Yeah, so in March, yeah, you know what? Whenever, anything I can do, please let me know. I would love to just support you any way that I can. You and your race. And it's literally been almost an hour and a half, so I could keep going, but I want to be respectful of your time. I really want to, I kind of want to go over extensively, like, what is the average contribution per person to your campaign? And, like, how can people support you? I mean, like, listen, my viewers are really Gen Z, Gen X, millennials, college students. Like, they're trying to make a change, but obviously we're not all made out of money. So, like, for everyone across the spectrum, like, what are the different ways and levels that people can help you, win this race and become another progressive in office?
I think we've seen how powerful people's voices are, especially the younger generation.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, TikTok took down Trump at his Kansas rally. So, just spreading the awareness really helps tremendously. It's like the situation I started with 0 followers. I think I made what did I make my Twitter? Oh, and then like February or March of last year.
Mm-hmm.
And organically grew it to 33,000 or whatever it is now.
That's because you're hilarious. You're hilarious on Twitter. Honestly, everything you tweet is gold.
It's really because my kids are they're good-looking kids. I don't know. I don't want to like toot my horn and say like, oh well, these genes, these 23 chromosomes that I kicked in were the. But
really did something for me. Oh.
The organic growth is something that I really appreciate. I love making the connections with people. I'm one of these people that like if you message me, I message back. So, but sharing the message, sharing the anytime there's a video or retweeting things like that is huge. Right now our average contribution is about $31
a month, or like one time.
Yeah, well, it didn't say a month, but it's like the one time. It just says the average, so I'm assuming it's one time.
Average is fair enough.
Yeah, so when you asked me that, I just looked it up. So yeah, $31 is the average. Obviously that would be great, fantastic if you could. But I appreciate so much people that are just willing to engage with me and share the ideas, because although, as a candidate, I come with like ideas of my own. Obviously, I'm not going to sit here and say that I'm the Isaac Newton of politics, and I know every position ever that's correct. But
right.
Engaging ideas is how we form opinions, and that's the great thing about a representative. You want them to have an open mind to where they can be persuaded to see like your point of view, and so I like that engagement. And so if you're able to share, retweet stuff, or follow me on TikTok or Twitter, Facebook, I appreciate that. If you're able to give 21, if you're able to give 5, I have people, and I gave her a Christmas card because she is this older woman. I called during like your candidates. We do call times. We have these like call sheets and we go through.
Yeah, like phone banking.
Basically, call people for money.
Yeah.
And this older lady answered the phone, and she was so nice. She was like, she's basically my grandma now. She like gave me $100, and she said, "I can only do this once now." And she gave me $100, but every couple of weeks, I'll see she does like 5 or like 10, 15. But it's like, she's pretty awesome. I've like called her up a couple times. I gave her a Christmas card from the family, and she's hilarious. And I just, that's one of the things that isn't talked about a lot in the public sphere is is what's going to happen to a lot of older folks who are she's in a situation, she's in a nursing home, she's on a fixed income, so for her to give me the $100, where she's only getting so much, I like really appreciate. But like, you know, we don't have the infrastructure or the focus on helping older people. And I think it's really telling in our system. Like maybe I'll like come off as a socialist if I say this, but when you don't have any value in our economy as far as like working or putting hundreds of thousands of dollars into the system, and you just become a person that's existing, it's like you're tossed to the side.
Yeah.
And Miss Betty's one of the funniest people ever, and I really just wish that we could do something for her, because A, she's on Social Security and it's still being taxed. Why? These are the people that are like, we created the system because they're the most vulnerable people, right? If you're only getting $1,500 a month, we're still taxing it. Maybe Elon Musk with his $11 billion, if he pays the $11 billion.
He said he will. We'll see. I don't have any faith, but...
You know, that's our system's set up for fairness. You want to promote fairness, and a progressive tax does that. But at a certain point, you get to a certain age, and a certain income. Obviously, if you could take care of yourself, and you're at a, you know, when Elon Musk retires, he can probably take care of himself.
Yeah, 100%.
But, you know, Miss Betty and people like her in our system deserve better. We all deserve better.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the reason why, you know, I've been doing the Progressive Brat for around 3 months now, and my dad does not, actually, my dad's going to see this, because he watches all my videos. Hi, Dad, in advance, because I know you're going to see this. I think he finally fully understood what I'm doing this past week. Like, he kept asking me, so how do you pay your bills? Like, how do you do this? Like, he just not getting it, right? And so he just kind of looked at me and he was like, why? Like, and it was just like such it was like probably one of the purest moments that I've had with my dad, because he was just like, you know, it was a huge question, like, you know, why did you quit your full-time job to do this? Like, this is so unstable. Like, you know what I mean? Like, why? Only like what, 2 to 3% of Twitch streamers actually make it, right? And for chat, my dad doesn't watch my streams. He watches the replays on YouTube, and I'm not going to cut this part out, so he'll see it. He'll see it, don't worry. He'll find a way. But, you know, I told him, I was like, listen, my mother worked her way from a Wendy's cashier to a bank manager. You know what I mean? She came to America, did not know how to speak a single word in English. She taught herself how to speak English. She went to community college. She did all of the right things. She started working at $7.25 an hour, worked her way all the way up to being a bank manager. And when she was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer, it was get a lawyer because her federal disability was denied. Get another lawyer because Medi-Cal doesn't want to let her go to the hospital for any of the procedures that she needs, and they don't want to approve any of the surgeries, right? It was, you know, the lawyer also needs to fight for EBT now. How much is her monthly income? $1,017 a month. How much is her rent? $800, right? Your rent is $800. Your spending income is $200. EBT pays for around $200 of the food. I mean, we're looking for low-income housing. 5 years, we still haven't found anything. I mean, if it was not, quite frankly, Lauren, if it wasn't for my brother and I constantly advocating and covering for her and her friends that all came in as a community to help her, quite frankly, stay alive, she would have been chewed up, swallowed, and spit out by the system. Easily. And, you know, and I looked at my dad and I told him, I was like, what if mom, I was like, put this in perspective. I was like, what if mom was, you know, 10 years younger, you would have died for some weird, you know, situation, and she was alone, and she would have been diagnosed with this cancer, and she had to raise 2 children alone. How would she do that? What would she do? You know, my brother and I are older. We, you know, I have my own place. My brother lives with my dad, but he has his own business, right? He could move out if he wanted to, but he stays at home to help with my dad. But how, you know, and Lauren, I'm going to end my plane here. That was my mom's second time getting diagnosed with cancer. My mother's first time getting diagnosed with cancer was in 2019, before the pandemic, and her job fired her right when they found out that she got breast cancer, and she had to immediately get the tumor taken out, so she actually had to leave everything and move back to Iran for a year. So her first round with chemo and everything, she had a choice. It was like, okay, do I pay for chemo and, you know, all of my medical bills, or do I go back to Iran where I can afford it because it's a socialist capitalist country and they actually cover insurance. They cover medical, I mean, Iran has its faults, but they cover insurance, right? You know, so
yeah.
So she went back. Her first round with cancer, she couldn't even afford to get it here.
I mean, that's message enough.
You know,
we always say, "Oh, America has the best healthcare." If you can afford it, to say that she would rather go back to Iran
to get medical care.
Is.
Lauren, I wrote her letter. Me, a person that's been working in corporate communications for 3+ years for really big companies, including PG&E. Actually, I worked at PG&E for a year, which is another reason why I started the Progressive Practice. Don't even get me started with them. But you know, I wrote this letter and I detailed everything. She sent it from everyone to council, city council, to assembly, to Congress. Not a single answer from anyone. And I was like, this is the problem. And you know, and I'm so sad that situations like what you're telling me about your friend that is now your adopted grandmother, or, you know, what you went through with your mother in 2011, like, we shouldn't have to go through all of this to have these pivotal moments, right? To where we're like, okay, we're going to take it in our own hands. You know, it's inhumane and it's not fair. It's really not. But it gets to that point where it's like, we need to fight for people like Betty, right? Or was that her name? You know, we need to fight for people like your mother or my mother, right? Like, you know, if it's not us, then no one's going to do it, because these corporations, lobbyists, these career politicians don't care about us, and they won't, you know?
And they won't, and stuff like that transcends political party.
Right.
You talk to Republicans, they the same way. Is that, you know, the tables are stacked against working people, and you saying that, you know, when your mother was diagnosed, she lost her job at the bank, they fired her. You know, I've talked before about how, you know, having a system of employer-based healthcare, when you lose your job, you lose your right to live, is how they look at it with something like that. And it's just absolutely ridiculous. And, you know, I just wanted to, man, that's, I just wanted to kind of talk a little bit about, again, the philosophies that we're trying to get into our government, into our legislative process of you know, having opportunity and security for all. And security means a whole bunch of different society that is it's unfair, and government should be there to balance those scales to help weaker interests get fair deals. It should be a situation where government is the referee. Your mom shouldn't have been fired for the pure fact that she had a diagnosed illness.
Right.
That is absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah.
And so government should be there to protect, people that can't protect themselves.
Yeah.
And every issue that we have as far as public policy is covered by one of those three things of freedom, opportunity, and security. We talked a little bit about improving public schools. I think I brought that up because I want my kids to go to a good public school.
Very vaguely. We talked about the food that.
Oh yeah, see, having schools, kids. If you're mandated to be somewhere, we should probably feed them.
Right.
But things like equal pay, having a situation where we have mortgage insurance, ending historically racist policies like redlining, and the big one I talked about with freedom, abortion. All those are covered by the things, freedom, opportunity, and security. And I just want to let you know that as a progressive, we are fighting that same fight, and I think we're fighting it for the right reasons. And I think I'm really happy that you're doing what you're doing, because I think it's the fire of the same flame that lit the American Revolution in the first place.
Yeah, it is.
So, I will. Let me end with this. I'll read a little something. Let me pull it up here.
Can you just end it with where we can donate, what we can do, how we can virtually help you as well. If you do virtual texting banks, let us know, because I know a lot of people do that too. Whatever we can do to help you, just make sure that you end on that note, and then once we are done, I'm going to kind of reconfigure the screen, and then we're going to go through your social media and tell people to follow you, because if you're not following his Twitter and you haven't seen his daughters, you're doing life wrong. You're doing life wrong. I'm just letting you know.
You are.
Yeah.
But so I will just the last thing that I'll kind of talk about is that I want people to take away from, and the stuff that we're fighting for as progressives, is a poem by Langston Hughes. And it says, "Let America be America again. Let it be the dream it used to be. Let it be the pioneer on the plain, seeking a home where he himself is free. Let America be the dream the dreamers dreamed. Let it be that great, strong land of love, where never king convive, nor tyrants scheme, that any man be crushed by one above." I love that poem because I think it really speaks to the ideals that we have as progressives, in the sense that it is this prayer, really, this hope that every one of us living in America can be given the chance to build a successful life, whatever that means to them.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so with that, I'll let you guys know you can check me out at my website at www.lourinhubbard, LOURINHUBBARD.com, as well as on Twitter at Lourin Hubbard, and I think TikTok's still the same too, Lourin Hubbard on TikTok. And I will let everybody know, subscribe to our mailing list, and I will let you guys know when we're doing events and outreach and postcard writing, phone banking. I've found a lot of people don't like to talk on the phone. I did not know how little I talked on the phone until I had to do it for this.
Yeah.
I probably talked a total of 10 minutes on the phone for the last 5 years.
Yeah.
And now I've talked on the phone more than I ever have in my life.
Yeah.
And I worked in a call center.
Wow. Wow.
So
that's
amazing. I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, of course, Lourin. Like I said, my offer is always on the table. My dream is to be one of the speakers at your campaign launch, but either way, whatever happens, I am here for you all the way throughout your journey. I am so people like you give people like me and millions of others in America hope. You know, and I think hope is really what keeps us alive during times of dire need. And I know you probably get this a lot, but I'm telling you this. I know you're gonna win, but regardless of the outcome, you are an inspiration not just towards me, towards millions of others in America, but also millions of young Black children across the nation as well. So, I personally really appreciate what you're doing, but just know that you're inspiring millions of people across the nation, whether you know it or not.
I appreciate that.
Yeah. No, I'm serious. You're amazing. Your daughters are extremely lucky to have someone like you to look up to. And we're going to go through his socials, guys. Yeah, chat loves you too. We're going to go through his social, guys. You guys all better sign up for his newsletter. Do whatever you can. If you can't pitch money, follow his Twitter. He's hilarious, and his daughters are freaking adorable. Also, you should make your daughters into models. I'm just saying, like, totally your choice, but I could totally see them being on.
I know, it's been out there. I mean, if you look at the last picture I posted, we did dress up last Sunday, and my oldest, is totally into performing, and when she graduated from preschool last year, and they went around the room and asked everybody, so what do you want to be? Oh, this person said a princess, or I want to be a firefighter. My daughter said she wanted to be a big star. Oh, period. We love the energy. We love the energy. At 5 years old, Lourin, she's going to do big things. We just already know. We just know. Yeah. We know. The chat is saying that the video of you guys around Christmas, of you guys singing, made one person in the chat cry. So she's a performer. For sure. She really is. She's so cute. Lourin, thank you so much for talking to us. We really appreciate your time. Let me know if there's any way that I can continue to support your campaign, and let's do it. I cannot wait to see you on TV in the halls of Congress doing your thing. I can't wait. I know you're going to do it. Thank you. You guys have a good night. Have a good night, Lourin. Thanks for coming on.